Welcome to the Private Equity Show with Ace Chapman. With 20 years experience, Ace discusses own firms, recent activities, target industries, desired acquisition profiles, closing pitches, and more. Learn from other successful industry leaders and get the behind-the-scenes candid details about private equity funds, how they work, how they thrive, and how you can run one too. And now your host, Ace Chapman.
Hey, so I just got off of a podcast interview, and one of the questions that came up on the interview was around SBA. And I did a video a little while back talking about with all of the money that is being divvied out right now by the government, a big chunk is going to SBA, even beyond just some of the COVID and PPP program and all of that. There's going to be some great opportunities, and unlike even just a few years ago when I did a series on SBA and just talking about a lot of the downsides, now could be the best time in history to go after SBA money. Now, even with that said, some of those downsides that we talked about before are still there. But there's a bigger downside that I talked about in this interview, and I want to share it with you guys. And the bigger downside is the missing out on the opportunity to level up. When I'm trying to make a decision about my strategy and where I want to go get funds. Obviously, there are a lot of options out there, and I've talked about them. There's merchant advance financing. We just started a royalty financing company. There's straight loans, there's bank loans, there's asset-based loans, there's lease purchase loans. There's all these things, and in each one of those, there's a little bit of a learning curve to get over if it's something that you want to use on an ongoing basis. But what I go back to, really even beyond just finance, but what I go back to in any strategy that I want to use in my business is I just want to model it after the biggest players out there. So if I'm looking at, okay, how do I want to access finance? Or just what do I want to do in my business? I want to look at the billion-dollar examples. If I'm in private equity, I want to look at, what are the biggest players in the space doing? It was the reason, years back, I started my first private equity fund because I realized, hey, even whether it's Warren Buffett, that was his first thing. The reason that he owns Berkshire Hathaway, like I mentioned before, was because it was a fund. All of these other guys have started funds, and everybody that does this buying and selling business thing has a fund. Like, maybe there's a reason. But I think that the more important thing there is not even about just funds or just where you get financing or any one thing. It's just that, I want to look at what's a billion-dollar player doing. And if I do the same thing, but my goal is 1%, if I want to make $1 million a year and they're doing $1 billion a year, then I'm literally less than 1% of what they're doing. But if I do the same strategies, that leaves a lot of upside. And, or on the other side, if you're doing what people who are making seven figures are doing, and a lot of them are using that strategy, and even the guy that's making $50,000 is doing, then it's going to be a struggle to be at that seven figure as opposed to being able to do 0.1% of what the strategy is that you're using can actually generate. And when you look at SBA, I think the biggest downside is that when you compare that to going out and raising capital or going out and gaining a skill set, it's a missed opportunity. That's what it really boils down to. It's not just that, oh, you're going through the process of doing this, you may have some liens. There's the risk that something like COVID happens. There are literally people right now that 3-4 months ago closed on an SBA deal and their business is out of business. And that's an unfortunate thing because those payments still, eventually are going to have to get paid. And they have to put a lien against your house. They put a lien against your retirement. They put a lien against your, cash, your cars. Like they literally, they're able to come after everything to get their money back. That's how it works because we all know that a lot of small businesses fail. And so what they're saying is, we'll give you this loan. We know that the chances are you're not going to make it. Just the odds are against you. So we're going to come after you personally if you don't pay. And so that's why that personal guarantee is so big when it comes to that. So the real key difference is the skill set. Now you compare that to what $1 billion players do, and they are going through the process of doing basically raising capital, which is a lot tougher. Raising capital from individuals, a lot more work, it's a lot more headache. It's a different animal, and I won't even say it's a lot more headaches because the headache of losing your home because your business went out of business is a big headache. But that's what happens with SBA. But the bigger thing is, what's scalable? What am I going to be able to go out and repeat and do over and over? And I've had accountants, I've had people come through our program. We're like, hey, you need to go out and raise capital. It's just a part of playing this game. And I've had them say, no, I can't sell. I can't talk to you about that. But it is a skill set. And I've had those same people just come back like, hey, I've actually got too much capital. And that's a beautiful problem. And people hear when I say that, it's like, no, that's impossible. But like, it literally is a real thing. And I think that when you compare that to the scalability of being able to raise capital and go out and do it, and you compare that to the skill set and what the skill set that you're basically gaining when you go through SBA is learning how to fill out some forms really well and deal with a bank and like learning, going through that process, which is still a very strenuous, it's a lot of work. I mean, these things are 3 to 6 months of work to get those deals done. But after that deal is done, it's what's your scalability? And when I compare, all right, the $1 billion guy, how many of them have built their businesses are using SBA on a regular basis, and they just aren't. So that's what I would encourage you. It's not about right or wrong, and it's not about SBA versus some other type of financing or any of those. It's just I think if you emulate the most successful people, then you can you come way under. You can do 1,000 points less than what they do and still come up a winner. It's one of the things that I was having a conversation about on Sunday. It's just one of the things I love is Kobe's whole attitude of Michael Jordan's the best. So I'm not going to go out here and try to emulate one of these other guys. Like, no, like I'm going to emulate Michael Jackson. And, they talk about how he would emulate everything, the way he chewed his gum, the way he just literally every talk, he would listen to his voice at the end of game and in the interviews and like emulate. And he wanted the essence of Jordan. And now they can go back and play plays where they play almost an overlap of Kobe and Michael Jordan, where Kobe sees a similar setup to plays that Michael Jordan has done in the past, and his movement like down to the freaking millisecond. It's just like exactly the way that Michael Jordan moves. And so that's what you want to be, is, you know, when you can emulate. And that's the funny thing to me, is that there's a pile on of people emulating seven-figure entrepreneurs. And I think the biggest downside to that is you miss out on the opportunity to learn the big game. And it's something I talk about, and even in our public company. You know, we just did our first public company, but it comes up very often because my partners in that think the same way. And but you know, it just comes up often, like, hey man, this is the learning, this is the training wheel. We're gonna learn a lot through this process, and we're gonna do more of these and bigger versions of these in the future. You know, it's the same thing with the private equity fund. So with each thing, if you're in a game, and you know, not to pick on SBA, but if you're in the SBA game, you have to know that basically you're playing little league. And you know, I'd rather ride the bench in the NBA than stay in the little league all day long. And so you are choosing to say, hey, like, I'm gonna play in the little league, and so my max is gonna be little league champion. Whereas even the people riding the bench with Jordan got to get their rings. So keep that in mind. You know, it's not about particular strategy. It's not right or wrong. It's about choosing the game that you want to play. Hope you guys are having some productive days in quarantine. Tell me your thoughts. Comment below. Subscribe. Thanks so much for checking out the video. Hey there, thank you so much for checking out the episode. If you're somebody who's interested in learning more about private equity or even buying your first business, be sure to subscribe, and don't be afraid to send us any questions or put those in the comments. If you're somebody that wants to take action now, feel free to visit acechapman.com. Be sure to sign up for our newsletter. Because there we'll update you on news that's happening in the micro private equity space, opportunities that we see in the market, as well as events that are coming up, like our live training events. If you want to reach out to me directly, feel free to hit me on Instagram. It's at ace.chapman, or shoot us an email, ace@acechapman.com. Thank you again for checking out the episode. And like I said, be sure to subscribe.